Hello everyone, Mike Rempel from Excel Bytes with today's Excel Bytes tutorial. Today we're going to take a look at the trim range function along with the dot operator, which are going to be very useful to you and quite exciting in the things you can do with them. But before we do that, please take a minute to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the bell icon so you can get a notice whenever I put out a new video. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps. You can also find me at any of the social media sites you see here. So now let's check out trim range and the dot operator. So here's our scenario. Let's say you have a list of 25 accounts and some dollar value associated with those, and you need to duplicate that list on another worksheet or somewhere else on this worksheet. Either way, it doesn't matter, it works out the same. Now, one of the things you can do is go over to that other area and just type equals, highlight that range, and just say enter, and it will automatically duplicate it. The only problem with that, if I go to add more accounts, it doesn't carry over. So let's say you change your range to maybe say add another 10 more. I'm going to say 38. Well, that's great. And when you go ahead and add more accounts, those move over, but you still have these trailing zeros. And again, depending how dynamic you make that range, those can get unsightly, and you can't do anything in here either because it'll cause a problem, basically a spill problem, with having all your data move over there. If I try to type something in there, now I just get a spill error up at the top. So one option you can do is use the trim range function. I'm going to go ahead and remove those. And what I'm going to do is, instead of using C3 to D38, I'm just going to highlight columns C and D, which again causes a whole string of trailing and leading zeros because I didn't start my list on row 1, but on the alternate sheet I do need it to start at row 1. So I ended up with trailing and leading zeros in that range. So this is where I can introduce the trim range function. A trim range, you have a range, you have row trim mode and column trim mode. And if I put a comma here, you can see that I can put a 0 and trim no rows. I can put a 1 for trimming leading rows, a 2 for trailing, or 3, or I don't have to put anything, which will trim both the leading and trailing. So in this case, if I put a 2, for example, which is just the trailing ones, hit enter, notice it eliminated all the trailing zeros, but left the leading ones. But now this is free space. I can put other information there, doesn't affect the list at all. If instead I left it blank, which means it will trim off both leading and trailing, it now gives me the list and eliminates the zeros above and below. And now if I add some more accounts here, it automatically will carry those over. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and remove those. So let's say instead you want to add a couple columns because you don't know in the future if I'm going to have more items that I want to add to this data I'm pulling over. So if you didn't have trim range and instead you said I want B to E, hit enter, now you're going to get zeros above, below, and in a column to the left and right of your data. And again, now you can use trim range to control what you want to carry over. If you want to get rid of all the ones in the rows, you could just put another comma. If you want to eliminate the leading column but keep the trailing, you can put a 1 there for in terms of the columns area, hit enter. Now I've eliminated the leading and trailing rows, but only eliminated the one leading column. So that's kind of the flexibility that you have with trim range. You can control what you pull over, what you don't. But let's do something a little more unique. And instead of using trim range, you can use what's called the dot operator. And with the dot operator, you can put a dot before the range indicator, that colon, to eliminate all leading blank cells, or a dot after the range indicator and eliminate all trailing columns and rows of blank cells. Or you can do both. So I can go in here, put a dot after the range indicator, hit enter, and notice it eliminated all the trailing zeros in the columns and in the rows. And if I put one before the colon, I hit enter, I have eliminated all the trailing and leading empty cell indicators there. However, if I go ahead and I want to add, let's say, an account number here, I can say equals sequence. I'm going to use the count function, highlight column D, close my parentheses, close my sequence, hit enter, and I've added a whole list of numbers for my accounts. And if I add more accounts, automatically adds those to the copied list. And again, all this data underneath the information is free. I can use it for others without interfering with duplicating that data on an additional area. Say I also want to go ahead and add a commission. I'm just going to say equals column D times, let's say, 10%. I have a spill error because I'm multiplying all 1,047,000 rows, so there's 3 rows on the bottom that there's no room for. I get a spill error. So what I can do here is I can wrap this in the drop function, put comma 3, close my parentheses, hit enter, and it carried over and did that calculation properly. The problem here is I'm doing that to the entire column D without the first 3 rows. So what I need to do is put a dot there, hit enter, and now it eliminates the trailing zeros for that commission. I can go ahead and add my headers here, and those all carry over exactly. If I eliminated those few accounts that I added, it automatically adjusts on the duplicated area. A couple other things I want to show you that the dot operator can do. Let's say data validation. I want to add a data validation list here of my account numbers, and I'm going to put as my source column C. I'm going to say OK, and now when I select that, notice I get a blank, I also get customer, and I also get maybe blanks at the bottom too. So what I can do with that is go to my data validation, and I can put a dot before and after the range indicator, say OK, and now it eliminated any spaces above or below. But in this case, I'll probably also want to add the drop function and do comma 1, close my parentheses, say OK, and now I just have my list of accounts. I don't have any spaces, I don't have the header, and again, as I add more accounts, I look at my drop-down list, and now my drop-down list includes the additional accounts I just added. One other thing I might want to be able to do is create a clean, unique list. So here I have a list of employees with departments, and I just want a clean list of the department names. So I'm going to type equals unique. I'm not going to highlight the entire column O because I'm not going to add that many more departments to my company. I'm going to close my parentheses, hit enter, and notice one of the unique items is a blank. So again, I'm just going to go in here and add a dot after the range indicator, hit enter, and now it's a nice clean list. And let's say I want to change one person novally to the purchasing department. It automatically added that to the unique list. Again, no extraneous zeros, and everything looks nice and clean. And these are just some of the great things that you can do with trim range and the dot operator in Excel.